Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we got a huge surprise today. Valve, out of nowhere, not only revealed the next Steam Deck, but they also announced the next Steam Deck even after that. Now, I love the current Steam Deck. It's really changed how I play games, so this is pretty exciting stuff, and we're going to talk all about that today. Then also, PlayStation revealed some impressive sales results in their quarterly report, but the looming concern for PlayStation's shifted focus to live service games remains a big question for fans. PlayStation's future is definitely interesting to say the least, and we will talk about that as well. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, it'll be delivered directly to your device. There's still about 50% of you who aren't currently subscribed, so don't forget to hit those buttons. It will make things a little bit easier to stay up to date. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into the video, starting off with Mass Effect. Of course, they revealed a teaser trailer on N7 Day, and I'm sure fans are still combing over that to find out the clues it holds, and maybe even more so now, because it sounds like it's going to be a long wait until we get this game in our own hands. This is according to the often leaky Jeff Grubb and Timur Hussein on the Giant Bombcast, where they said this. Jeff first said, "You want some original reporting? This game is just nowhere near coming out. I was told when they revealed Dragon Age Dreadwolf in 2018, this is similar in terms of timeline. That was announced in 2018, and we're not getting that game until maybe next year. So now do the math for that, and we're talking 2029 for Mass Effect 5. And then Timur responded by saying, "I've heard some things as well, and this game is so far away. It is so far in another galaxy right now." So yeah, I mean, this isn't necessarily a confirmation. We should probably wait for BioWare themselves to announce something, but it sounds like fans might want to go ahead and sit tight. It sounds like maybe they've been putting most of their focus on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and okay, if you prefer that series, that might actually be a good thing for you. But AAA game development does take a long time. A lot of modern AAA games anymore, they take like 6+ years to develop, that's pretty crazy to think about. You look back at the Xbox 360 days, and we got 3 Mass Effect games in a 5-year period, but since then, Andromeda, that released in 2017, and if we're lucky, we might get Mass Effect 5, 12 years later? What makes that even crazier to think about, though, is that Mass Effect 3 launched in 2012. So that is a 17-year gap. That means I would have been 21 years old when that game released, and I'll be 38 when the next one comes out. Man, that makes me feel old, but I've said it before, I'm not sure if development time is nearly as talked about as it should be. These waits are getting pretty long for AAA games now, so yeah, it looks like Mass Effect is going to be quite the wait. Moving on, though, something very strange happened yesterday because apparently somebody at Sega and Atlas made a mistake and just up and released Persona 5 Tactica early on Steam 1 week ahead of its official release. This game is supposed to launch next week on November 17th, but it was available yesterday for a short period of time, and some fans were lucky enough to download it before Atlas actually fixed the problem, and what people are doing now is that they're playing offline, so Atlas and Sega can't keep them from playing it. So it's just kind of a bizarre situation. I'm sure somebody at Sega or Atlas got in trouble, but the reason that this is important for you to know is because if you're interested in Persona 5 Tactica, there might be some fan impressions that goes up a little bit early if you're interested in something like that, or if you're worried about spoilers. If that's the case, you might want to steer clear of Persona 5 Tactica topics, just in case. Either which way, this game will be out next week on PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, and yes, it's also coming to Xbox Game Pass day 1. Speaking of Steam, though, I'm incredibly excited to talk about the Steam Deck OLED. It is now 100% official. This is something that fans have been asking for pretty much since day 1 of the Steam Deck's release, and not only did Valve deliver, but the Steam Deck OLED version is actually even better than what I think most of us were expecting. This is not just a simple screen revision and nothing else. It's so much more than just that. This is a true mid-generation refresh for the Steam Deck. We'll get into that here in just a second. But first, let's talk about the price and release date. Valve announced that the Steam Deck OLED will be available on November 16th on their store, and there's two different models to choose from. You can either spend $550 for the 512GB model, or you can spend $650 for a terabyte, which will have a limited edition design for early adopters. It looks like that it is transparent if you like something like that, and they're saying that this will be highly limited, so yeah, good luck with that. But the pricing here is, once again, very appealing for a device like this. Despite an overall upgrade from pretty much top to bottom, Valve still managed to keep the price down to essentially the same price as their previous models. Now, in a world where we keep seeing significant price hikes, I'm looking at you, Sony. Well, it's nice to see Valve keep their prices down here, especially when you realize you're getting an even more premium product. Of course, the highlight here is its new HDR OLED screen, which is also slightly bigger. It's now 7.4 inches compared to the previous 7 inches. They did decrease the size of the bezel, so it's not that the whole device is bigger, it's really just the screen alone, which is really cool to see. Now, there's actually already a lot of reviews going up online. You can go check them out right now. And so far from what I've seen, everybody seems to be glowing about how good this screen looks. Digital Foundry, they described it as the best looking handheld screen on the market, which that says a lot. So there you go. The screen is no longer a weak point for the Steam Deck. Apparently, it is actually a strength. More so though, and this is one of the big complaints that I've seen for PC handhelds, Valve actually improved the battery. The OLED model now has a 50 watt-hour battery, which can increase playtime by about 50%. So that is another significant increase. They also upgraded its Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 6E. They upgraded its speakers, its APU, its RAM, and it even weighs less now. Interestingly, it's also been found that the Steam Deck OLED has better performance than the previous model as well. Now, this is only marginal. Don't expect a significant increase here, but on top of having a better screen that pops more, Digital Foundry mentioned that its frame rate is consistently about 7% better. Again, that's not necessarily a huge difference, but it is a difference. Valve appears to have done a phenomenal job on its upgrade. This really is more of a mid-generation refresh than anything else. I think the only frustrating part about this reveal, though, is that so far, Valve hasn't announced a trade-in program for early adopters, and that's kind of annoying when you start to realize how fast these PC gaming handhelds have hit the market as a whole. The pace in which they're releasing is extremely fast. I mean, just this year alone, we'll have gotten the ROG Ally, the Legion Go, and now the Steam Deck OLED. On top of that, there's a chance that you might have bought one of the previous two, and it's not even like the original Steam Deck is an old machine either. It's been out for less than 2 years, so it would be nice to see Valve offer a trade-in program for those early adopters, kind of reward them and make their upgrade as easy as possible. Now, I'm not sure if they will, but I guess we'll see, hopefully. But if anything else, if you want the LCD model at a discounted price, I imagine there's going to be a wave of Steam Decks that hits eBay here in the next couple weeks. That could actually be a good holiday gift if you're interested in something like that. With how fast they're releasing these PC handhelds, though, that does kind of beg the question on whether or not you should buy in now or maybe wait until later. And oddly enough, Valve actually did confirm their plans for a Steam Deck 2 today as well. Yeah, that's kind of a strange way to announce it, but they said that they're very invested into the Steam Deck platform, and they are planning to make a Steam Deck 2, though it won't be out until at least 2 to 3 years. Now, it could go beyond that. It really just kind of depends on the technology that's available to them, but that information might help you decide on whether or not you think that OLED model is worth buying into, or if you would rather wait another 2+ years as technology advances even more. That's really completely up to you, but I'll tell you this much right now, you should definitely go check out some of those Steam Deck OLED reviews online because it's seriously sounding impressive, to say the least. Okay, so let's go and talk about PlayStation, though, because they just dropped their quarterly report, and for the most part, they had a lot of success. The PS5 has now shipped 46.5 million units worldwide, meaning that they've shipped a total of 8.2 million for the first half of their fiscal year. Of course, their target is 25 million, and Sony did admit that that's going to be difficult to reach, But so far, they are still committed to that number. They are expecting some big numbers this holiday, and yeah, with Spider-Man 2, I imagine that they will. Now, we'll see how that turns out, but speaking of Spider-Man 2, it's been super successful, selling 5 million units in just its first 10 days alone, which is nothing short of impressive, but I do think it's important to point out that it's no longer the fastest selling PlayStation game ever. We kind of talked about this before, but Sony previously boasted that it was the fastest selling game, but God of War Ragnarok actually sold 5.1 million units in its first week. So God of War is once again the champion here, and like I said back then, that's really PR for you. There's a reason that every single year Sony announces their newest game is their fastest selling first-party game, but if you actually pay attention to those announcements, every time they've used a different amount of days as their metrics, so you can kind of take that as you will, but nonetheless, both games are huge hits, no doubt about that. 5 million in 10 days is absolutely insane. But the big story here is actually in regards to PlayStation's future. Now, this is something that we've talked about a few different times, but there are questions about PlayStation's future lineup under Jim Ryan's leadership, and this is one of the reasons that I'm not a big fan of Jim Ryan, and that's because under his reign, they've shifted a lot of development resources towards live service games. About 60% of their budget is going towards these style games, with 12 in development, and well, PlayStation just confirmed that they've delayed half of their live service projects. This is what they said. We are reviewing this. We are trying as much as possible to ensure these games are enjoyed and liked by gamers for a long time. Of the 12 titles, 6 titles will be released by fiscal year 25. That's our current plan. As for the remaining 6 titles, we are still working on that. Now, he did mention that quality is the number one most important thing to them, and that's kind of the takeaway here. You can really look at this announcement in 2 different ways. Either all of these delays really speaks to Sony's focus on quality, or 2, that their shift to live service games isn't necessarily going as smoothly as what they were maybe hoping for. And based on what we know and the things that we've heard, that's what I would kind of bet on right now. We've since learned that PlayStation's very own first-party studios have been disgruntled over their drastic shift to live service games. We also know that Sony has canceled multiple live service projects over the last 2 years, including putting Factions 2 on ice. And we've seen similar results across the industry. This is not just exclusive to PlayStation. It's not all that uncommon to hear about live service projects being canceled. As I've said time and time again, it's that mythical cash cow syndrome. Everybody wants the next big live service game. They want that cash cow. But the reality is, these games are incredibly, incredibly risky. There's more flops than there are success stories. We have seen that time and time again. And from early signs, it kind of seems like Sony is learning that the hard way. They're canceling and now delaying a lot of projects when instead they could have used that money and pumped more into what made them popular in the first place: single-player games. Just imagine how many more single-player games we could have seen if it weren't for this shift. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten that big drought this year where we just got a Spider-Man game. Maybe we would know more about the future if they focused more on single-player games. I mean, here's the thing though. I'm not opposed to live service projects. In fact, I actually like that they're trying to expand their portfolio. But the problem is that I think that they're being too aggressive with this shift. Personally, and this is only my opinion, but I think that a 30-70 split favoring single player would have been a better direction to take. They can still invest into live service games, just maybe not as aggressively. Now, that's only my opinion, but I'll tell you this much: I'm not shocked at all to hear that Sony might be struggling a little bit with this newfound direction, because really seems like almost every publisher does. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day that we're asked you all. Have you ever purchased Grand Theft Auto 5? And as expected, most of you have. 71% said yes, because this is one of the singular most successful games of all time. Rockstar just announced that it's now sold nearly 190 million units worldwide, which is, that's just wow. It always surprises me that with each passing quarter, they somehow managed to sell millions upon millions of more copies of Grand Theft Auto 5. And I mean, if you look at the poll, there's still about 28% of you that are potential customers. Either way, though, the result here really speaks to just how big that GTA 6 trailer is going to be next month. This legitimately will be the biggest game reveal for the entire generation. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel to Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.